After 4 grueling months, the American sports landscape has begun to reshape itself to adapt to the global pandemic. While you can still watch your favorite players on the MLB field or in the NBA bubble, how you view the games has certainly changed. On today's episode, we'll be sitting down with Frank Wall to discuss the current state of sports broadcasting and advertising. Frank serves as the Senior Vice President at Turner Sports, where you might know him best for his work overseeing Bleacher Report, the NBA on TNT, and even March Madness. Additionally, Frank will be giving his own perspective on the reopening of sports, general business strategy for acquiring new companies in the sports industry, and even some general life advice. You're listening to the newest Marketside Chat.
All right. We now love to welcome Frank Wall onto the podcast. Frank is a Senior Vice President at Turner Sports. Frank, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Hope everybody's doing well and staying healthy.
Yeah, we're doing our best. We hope you are too. So Frank, to start it off, we know you have a pretty extensive background in publishing and advertising. We'd love to know how that got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started out my career in the television advertising business right out of college. I worked for the ABC affiliate up in Madison, Wisconsin, and then digital media was starting to take off, and I moved over to that space. And I was working for a newspaper company, a network of newspapers, and I was leading their digital sales efforts. And we started packaging up print and digital together, and that became a really effective advertising strategy for marketers. And then Time Incorporated, which is a huge publishing company, formerly Time Inc. Now they were acquired by Meredith, but they recruited me over there because their digital business was taking off, and we were really trying to build out a team that could market both magazines and digital. And that was a great run. I worked at Time Magazine. I ran our LA office, and then ultimately my last job there, I was the publisher of Sports Illustrated, which is really where I got into the sports business. And that was a lot of fun. The brand was, that's a very iconic brand, and they had, the company had been investing heavily in digital. And at the time we had a relationship with Turner Broadcasting, with the sports division of Turner. And I got to know the leadership there, and an opportunity came along to join these guys at a time when we were really, really putting the pedal to the metal. We invested in bought Bleacher Report, which is I'm sure an app that you guys all have on your phones. And we had gotten in business with March Madness, and we have that contract through the year of 2032. We're in partnership with the NBA through 2025. We have a relationship with Major League Baseball. We broadcast in regular season games in the postseason. So it was really an opportunity, I think, to really come back to my original roots in TV, but, really taking advantage of the power of live sports in the media landscape today. Live as people are shifting to, streaming services, it's really hard to reach consumers live if you're an advertiser, but sports and news is certainly two content verticals where that can be done. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a fun ride for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just getting right into it, you hinted at it a little bit earlier, but clearly there's a big difference in how the MLB has been proceeding with the pandemic compared to like the NBA and the NHL, who are currently contained within the bubble. So I guess my question is, do you think the MLB is handling the situation appropriately, or do you think the MLB should be in a bubble, or is that just not feasible?
Well, if they could be in a bubble, I think they would. Okay. The fact of the matter is that, there is no doubt it is the safest protocol. But it's you have teams all over the country. It's really challenging to do. They're playing against the shortened season as well. So, the fact of the matter is that it's really hard, as we all know, it's hard to contain this virus if individuals are not being safe and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And when you have teams that are traveling back, crisscrossing across states, it's hard for that to really be effective. The NBA, well, before I get to the NBA, Major League Baseball is determined to make this season work. Rob Manfred is, I think, a pretty confident leader in the sense that he is determined to really see this thing through. So if, teams have to take a pause because of a flare up, then they're going to do that. But the league, from everything that they're saying to us, is that they want to persevere. But to your point, the bubble is an incredibly powerful deterrent of this virus, because we have, between us and ESPN, we have a few hundred employees, that are servicing the bubble in terms of being able to produce games down there. You got the players. Just 10 days ago, all 344 players had tested negative, so they've got it contained. And assuming that everybody remains responsible and sticks to the guidelines, then we'll be crowning a champion here at some point in the middle of October.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that we've kind of been looking at is the kind of how the pandemic has affected different business models. And I'm sure, with the restructuring of the season, there had to be a lot of different changes on your end in the advertising space. With the NBA doing like an abridged season, as well as the MLB. Do you maybe want to speak to how that kind of changed your, trajectory for the year, or what you were planning on rolling out initially, or if nothing's changed? Or
well, no, I wish nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everything changed.
Yeah.
When this all started, it was the second week of March, and we were a week away from the first tip of the March Madness tournament, and that entire tournament got canceled. So, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that went up in smoke from an advertising perspective.
Yeah.
And we worked very closely with our advertising partners to try to find a home, but I think to the point that you're alluding to, a lot of businesses are hurting because of this. And so we really had to be flexible with our partners. Car companies stopped manufacturing cars and started manufacturing ventilators.
Yeah.
So the automotive advertisers, they were in a tough spot. And movie companies, which we do a ton of business with, movie theaters shut down. So now, Warner Brothers and Disney have no way to get their films on the screen. So it impacted us in a pretty big way. The one thing that helped us was that was the NBA didn't cancel the season; they just paused it. So all of our advertising partners, we worked with to say, like, hang with us. Let's wait and find out what's going to happen with the rest of the season. And if the season cancels, then we understand why you want to take your money back and put it in the bank. And a lot of them worked with us, and they kept the expression that I've been using is they held on to their parking garage spot. And so that way, when we were able to come back to even a modified season, we were able to keep all of our sponsorships intact, and all those marketers who were patient with us are now really seeing the benefit of the fact that there's so many people are watching these games, and we've really created some pretty innovative advertising and sponsorship positions. If you look at the court, when you watch the telecast, the logos that you're actually seeing on the basketball court are the team logos. So the home team's local sponsors are getting courtside visibility, courtside signage is what we call it. And it's been an incredible partnership working with the leagues, with the teams, and with the sponsors and advertisers that support the NBA on a day-to-day basis.
Hi, Frank. To kind of touch on that, what I've noticed, because I was watching the Lakers play last night, and one thing I noticed more than anything was how much space there was on the sides of the courts and on the both ends of the courts. And this allows a lot of space for like bigger advertisements. And that's kind of like what caught my eye more than anything is how large these advertisements were. Can you speak on the viewership that you've been getting more recently now that esports has kind of started back up?
Yeah, I mean, our viewership numbers are up. So the good news is that, we knew going in, we were pretty bullish that there was going to be a lot of demand, a lot of pent up demand for basketball. We immediately started working to identify what were going to be the things that we were going to be able to do that would be different with the new season and in the inside of the bubble arena. And those big open spaces, because of obviously social distancing, became a pretty interesting canvas for us to work with and monetize from an advertising perspective. And we worked very closely with the NBA on it. It's obviously their intellectual property, but we write them a pretty big check every year for the rights to broadcast these games. So we have a wonderful partnership with them. And we identified some really great white space for marketers to take advantage of. We think coming out of the gates, I think that, fans were, meaning, television fans and digital fans of the NBA were very interested and curious to see what it was going to be like inside of that bubble. And so we knew we were going to see a pretty nice lift coming right out of the gate. But what we're seeing now is we're actually sustaining those audiences. So, obviously the Lakers are playing great. I think everybody would like to see Zion playing more than 15 minutes a game.
I know, it's so disappointing.
I know, believe me, that first night, last Thursday, the 30th, we had the Pelicans and Jazz in our first game, and then we had Lakers Clippers in our game 2 on TNT. And so now you recall a few weeks back, Zion had to return home to New Orleans for some type of family emergency. I don't think we actually heard what happened, but then he had to quarantine for 2 weeks before, because he had left the bubble and had come back. And then when we heard he was going to play, we were all excited. And then it was like all of a sudden, night of the game, we find out they're going to limit his play. But
I just don't understand. They're in like the 9th seed position, don't they? I mean, they got to make the playoffs, and they played Memphis the other day, who's also a potential playoff contender. I just don't understand why they're not, putting Zion in to get that full, to get those wins that are critical.
Yeah, it's really important, and I think that I think they're gonna. That's a long-term investment. Nobody needs to explain that to this group of people. The importance of a long-term investment, the long play, but. This is just one of those kind of like strange seasons that I think that if I'm a team owner, I'm looking at it saying, do I want to worry so much about this year versus really being focused on next year? So I think that plays into it.
Yeah, definitely.
But Memphis has got to win a game now.
No, they do.
They haven't won a game yet.
I know.
Well, it's weird because the style of play with no fans is just a little different when you're watching the games now inside the bubble. The players, it seems like it's a little more travel basketball like, and guys are kind of like doing their thing. So it's kind of a weird thing to be watching at the same time.
Yeah, it does feel a lot like a pickup game to me, where as opposed to when you're playing, in a packed arena and you have, and we've done a good job of, I think, introducing a lot of like the fan noise, fan crowd noises and things like that into the arena so that these guys feel like they're, the only thing we're not, the only thing that we're listening to is the squeaking of the shoes. I think that that's helped, but once, these guys have been sitting around their houses for 3.5 months, and they're finally back playing these 8 games, these seeding games. I look at it as like spring training. I think once we get to the point where we move into the round 1 and round 2 of the playoffs, I think those guys and professional athletes in general they take it to a whole nother level with their mindset and mentality and their competitiveness. I mean, I think, one of the highlights of the sports world during COVID was the Last Dance, the documentary about the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think we all saw it.
And Jack and I are obviously have a very strong affinity to that team. But one of the things that Jordan said that was really, really stuck with me was when they were really drilling him on the gambling thing. And he said, "I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem." Yeah. And I think that's really, I mean, gambling aside, I think that's really, when you're an elite professional athlete, your competition level just is a whole nother gear in the car. Mm-hmm. And these guys, I think, once they get to that point, I think you'll get back to seeing what like normal play looks like, in a non-pandemic. But yeah, it's going to be fun. That's for sure.
Who do you have as a finals matchup?
Lakers Bucks.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they're both shoo-ins, and that'll be fun to watch. Now, the problem is the Lakers are probably going to walk away with it because I don't think they're as deep as the Bucks. But guy Giannis and that team, I mean, they're young and scrappy and fun to watch play. So, but I know that was a cop out. They're both the top seeds right now anyway. But it's I think it's the most likely outcome.
I think there's a couple solid contenders in the Western Conference. Like the Clippers and Lakers could obviously be a great Western Conference championship. But also the Rockets look pretty solid too.
Yeah. And Rockets haven't lost a game yet.
Yeah.
I think they played 2 or 3 games.
I think they've played 3.
But I don't think they've lost a game yet.
Yeah.
And they're stacked too. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be very interesting fall. We haven't even talked about college football, college and pro football yet. Which are I think still very big question marks. To my knowledge, I haven't heard any contingency planning happening at the NFL, which I would, I can tell you with the NBA, I mean, they were working day and night to try to identify the right alternatives for how to play this, how to play the, some shortened season and playoffs. But, it'll be pretty boring if all of a sudden our basketball ends and baseball ends and there's no football. God knows we all love watching pro and college football.
Yeah, I certainly won't know what to do this fall if there's no football. But Frank, going back to the MLB and the NBA, I feel as if over the last 10 years or so, even before COVID, there was definitely a growing divide in terms of age groups and who's watching each sport. We specifically see, more and more young people watching the NBA. So do you feel as if this whole COVID situation has just accelerated that?
Yeah, they definitely reach different audiences for sure. Major League Baseball is a little bit older, a little bit more middle America. The NBA is younger, more multicultural, educated, and I think that for a lot of reasons, I think that the NBA's audience is so compelling to young people is because a lot of these players are obviously super active on social media. So you really get a sense of who these men and women, by the way. We should include the WNBA in that reference. They're definitely much more, their personalities come out a lot more. And I think that helps keep the NBA younger. It's obviously very global too. Whereas Major League Baseball is obviously, for the most part, North America, obviously. And, those, for whatever reasons, I don't see those guys out as much. They're not as forward leaning. And then I also think you have to acknowledge, the time period that we're in right now and everything kind of happening, post George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement has really, emboldened. I think a lot of players are really leaning into that. And I think that young people are, they're super supportive of it. So it's, I think all of that is contributing to the growth that we've seen, particularly over the last couple of months, but, over the course of the last several years, I think that, all those things have played into why, basketball has able to resonate more with a younger audience. But baseball's got a very stable audience. I mean, they don't call it America's pastime for nothing.
Yeah, I guess part of my thought process is that, with a shortened MLB season, this is the first time where like important MLB games are overlapping with very important NHL and NBA games.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, I think there's been so much pent up demand for live sports. I think people are watching everything. But I'll say this too, hockey, I'm not as close to we're not in the business with hockey. So I'm not super in the weeds on their ratings and audience engagement, but I feel like, NBC has done a really good job with the NHL, making it more accessible. And it's by nature, it's a younger league just because a lot of these pros are younger, literally younger. And I think they resonate with young people too. So it's an exciting game. I'm pretty sure all you guys are big hockey fans. I know Jack is for sure, but it's definitely one of those sports that's just very exhilarating to watch. And I think as a result of high definition televisions and better broadcast production equipment, the game has gotten so much better to watch on television. It's always the best when you're in person, but for watching it on TV, it's really gotten a lot tighter.
It's interesting too with the no crowds and everything. They're able to put so many more cameras into these arenas and stuff. Like you can see with I think the game I was watching last night, the basketball game, they had like 23 courtside cameras and mics. So it really feels like you're almost there, seeing those new perspectives.
Yeah, and a lot of them are robotic too.
Yep.
So you have them being controlled by a man or a woman that's sitting in a production truck that's not even in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
So it's again, I go back to what I had said a little bit earlier about just the pure innovation. Like when this whole thing went down, the president of my company is a guy named Lenny Daniels. And Lenny's been in sports media sports production for a long, long time. And he said right out of the gates, what I want everybody to focus on is what is doing a production going to look like in an environment where there's no live fans. And at that point, we didn't even know about the bubble. I think we had heard that was a possibility, but he and the entire production crew really got laser focused on how can we innovate to make this experience on television, as exciting, if not more exciting for the consumer than, a typical game. And I think that, those camera angles, all the innovations that we're doing from an audio perspective, we've got a couple of other things that we're still working around that we would like to introduce in the postseason. That'll be interesting. It's just, I feel like it just has really come together. Now that said, he said what he didn't want to, working on was, stunty type events, that would just be kind of a distraction. And now that was true until we found out that we could get Peyton Manning and Tom Brady to compete with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson for the match 2.0.
Yeah,
which was awesome. One of the coolest. Yeah, we raised $20 million for COVID relief. We, the rain was a central character in that storyline. Tiger, I thought, put it best. He's like, I don't normally play in the rain. If you're Tiger Woods, I wouldn't play in the rain either unless it was a tournament. But, when Brady hit that shot.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. Was it for Eagle?
I don't know if you guys hate Tom Brady now.
We love him. We still love him.
All right. When he hit that shot and split his pants, by the way, in the same exact moment, that really changed it. And, you know, there was smack talk with Charles Barkley, and, you know, I thought, you know, Peyton Manning is a world-class guy, world-class. And, you know, he told a couple funny stories about, the one that was really good was the day before they played a practice round. And he was, I guess he had Tiger's caddy on his bag, but, you know, as soon as it became a competitive match, his caddy wasn't giving him any reads anymore. So, and he told a funny version of that story. It was great. So it deviated from our original, you know, plan, our COVID plan of not doing anything, other than just getting prepared for going back to, you know, normal or new normal, I suppose, live games. But that was a real fun one to work on. And, you know, I think almost 6 million people tuned in to watch that day. So that was great.
And then kind of, you know, tying things back to the MLB and NBA opening, because I know that the MLB and the NBA have extensive, you know, supply chain networks. And I was just wondering, you know, from your perspective, are you able to kind of see any, you know, network effect with the MLB and NBA reopening, and, you know, any businesses getting resurgences because of that restart and season and viewership?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I think definitely for the league sponsors, you know, it gets them back up and active again. You know, I think that it's getting their brand out there in front of consumers. So, you know, hopefully, you know, I know like the beer category got hit pretty hard. Kind of the entire beverage category got hit pretty hard during the pandemic because they lost all the retail business. But, you know, if you notice, Michelob Ultra has got a really big presence with us on TNT and the NBA. You know, hopefully that, you know, they see an uptick from that, you know, and especially as, you know, restaurants start to open back up and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we see businesses, you know, getting back up and running again. Same with the automotive companies. Now, you know, they've shifted back to manufacturing vehicles again, and people are getting out and, you know, hopefully buying cars again. Hopefully we see a pickup in that business. You know, on the media front, you know, we were very lucky. I had mentioned at the top that about 10 years ago we bought Bleacher Report, and Bleacher Report is an incredibly strong digital business. It's got a very avid following of millennial sports fans. We have a couple of sub brands that are wildly popular. The House of Highlights is probably the biggest one. But BR Kicks, which is a sneaker culture sub brand under Bleacher Report, you know, all of those, I would call them mini businesses, were able to thrive during the pandemic, despite the fact that we didn't have any live sports. You know, they were able to keep the storytelling narrative going for fans to keep them engaged. And like I had mentioned before, a lot of athletes were very active on social media, showing, you know, funny things that, you know, they were doing with their families at home. And all of that really, you know, resonates with Bleacher Report's audience. So I think we were able to, you know, help our business partners, you know, with keeping active during the last 5 months. And, you know, hopefully we can sustain some continued growth, because the economy certainly needs it. That's for sure.
Frank, I have a kind of an off-ball question for you, and I want to switch up the conversation a little bit, and I want to talk about E-League and the property under Turner Sports. I know you guys had created or bought out E-League in like 2015, 2016. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you know, I know a lot of professional athletes like to game online and stuff, and you know, they have big social media presences and stuff like that. So can you speak more on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought it up, because gaming is wildly popular. As you know, the numbers are staggering. When we first back in 2015, you know, we had we had a task force that was looking at the space, and we were trying to identify, what it is that we could do in the space that would be meaningful and in a way for us to engage, that community. And, if you think about gaming and esports, you have a couple of different entities. You've got the publishers who make the games, so the software companies that produce the actual video games that people play. You have the platforms like Twitch and YouTube, and then you have the gamers themselves. And all of these constituents were kind of all swimming around. There was nobody really that was. And by the way, you also have the tournament promoters, the people that like the ESLs, and nobody was kind of coming in saying, let's put a big kind of, I don't want to say a governing body, but let's put a big ribbon around all of this to see if that way, somebody could be, an organizing body around gaming. And we represent the NCAA, so we know a lot about what that's like. And our chief content officer, Craig Berry, very smartly from the very beginning said, we're not going to dive into the deep end of the pool on the thing. We're going to dip our toe in, because the one thing about the gaming community is that and especially if you're a brand, if you try to force yourself into that conversation, you're going to get alienated quickly. The gaming community is all about authentic voices, authentic experiences. And so we started out slowly. We partnered with CSGO because they're one of the biggest games that people are playing in competitions, and it's also PC based. So it's it's a game that has access to a lot more people than just console. And we got out of the gates really pretty well. We built a studio down on our campus in Atlanta. Can hold a few hundred fans to watch live competition. And then over the course of the next year, we started to diversify. We worked with different publishers. We worked with Rocket League. In the past year, we've developed almost like a red zone, like the NFL red zone, but for gaming. We did it in partnership with Twitch. It's called Super Punch, and it's a pretty fun. It's a nightly show. We broadcast it on TBS on Friday nights, and it kind of goes across the gaming community, looking at highlights from different competitions, talking to the different personalities in the gaming space, and it's highly entertaining. And I think it's just an evolution of what we've done with E-League, from going from producing tournaments to now producing shows around the competition. So it's been an incredible journey. The other thing too is, over the course of the last couple of years, we got acquired by AT&T, and AT&T is very interested in the gaming space, obviously, to reach that demographic, that young millennial demo. And so we're trying to work very closely with them on a unified strategy for what E-League will continue to be down the road. So, but we're very we saw that as a very natural place to invest, much like we would with any of our traditional league partners.
And I can imagine that only prepared you pretty well for what was to come with live sports in America during this quarantine too.
Yeah, a lot of people turn to gaming.
Yeah,
especially a lot of those pro athletes. I'm not a gamer myself. I was never good at it, so I never really tried all that hard. But but the numbers are staggering. I mean, the amount, not only just the tens of millions of people that are not just the gamers themselves, but the people that are watching the gamers play is nuts. And then you think about the amount of time spent doing that. We saw numbers where, on average, you got 20 million people streaming, and they're doing it for 2.5 to 3 hours a night. I mean, that's about as good of an engagement metric as anyone is ever going to be able to tout.
Well, it was funny because at one point during quarantine, ESPN was, I think they were broadcasting like a 2K20 game on television. And I think that just goes to show how much people kind of missed live sports more than anything.
Yeah, and ESPN, like they were in this space pretty early on too. They did a collegiate tournament. This is going back to 2014, 2015. I think it was called Heroes from the Dorm or something like that. And, it was college kids competing, against each other and tournament style, universities versus universities. So it's definitely, it's highly relevant when you have people that are, being asked to stay home and, socially distance and everything that we know that we've been going through with this pandemic. And it's certainly a way for people to engage with each other, but, as I said, in a socially distant way. So, yeah, E-League has been, it was a good business decision for us.
So, Frank, I noticed on Bleacher Report Live that you have a lot of Premier League matches. I have to imagine that during this halt in American sports, those were pretty important to your platform, correct?
Yeah. So Bleacher Report Live is an OTT product that it's actually its own platform, separate from the Bleacher Report app. And what we do is we stream a variety of different sports games on that platform. So the UEFA Champions League, we were in partnership with them. We streamed a lot of those games on the platform. We do also for some football clubs across, in Europe, in the UK. And then we also have a portfolio of other emerging sports properties that, are not the big, the Power Five, if you will, like the National Lacrosse League. We stream those games on BR Live. World Surf League is another partner where we stream, their events. And we see it as an opportunity to, bring that live game experience to the Bleacher Report fan base. And we have, I think to your question specifically about global football, is that we noticed through our research that there was that soccer here in the States, global football, there was a strong demand for that content on the platform, particularly for our European user base. And, we knew that, because of our fandom with Bleacher Report here in the United States, that we felt very bullish that we might be able to bring, somebody finally could make soccer mainstream here in the United States. And I feel like we've done a really incredible job on doing that. If you noticed, when we would broadcast a UEFA Champions League game, we would air those games on Tuesdays and Wednesday afternoon on TNT. And our studio show was branded BR Football. And, we knew that brand association was going to be important in terms of pulling that audience, over to television and certainly, and vice versa. So, we found that it was Bleacher Report was a really important part of that strategy for us, relative to that sport.
I have a quick question to add on to that. When you're looking for potential clients or like partnerships, what kind of methods do you use, and how do you how do you guys decide if these clients are beneficial for your business? Like you were saying, how you guys string the Major League Lacrosse, like how do you determine whether how to get into that space or whether or not it'd be good to stream those types of games?
Well, so we do a lot in the research side of things. We have an incredible research team that goes out and, identifies, where there may be white space. That team is exactly who informed our decision making when it came to the UEFA Champions League rights. We saw that opportunity both with Bleacher Report, but also, migrating, getting those audiences to come over to TNT and hopefully bring down the median age of TNT in the same process. So we do a lot in partnership with our research and insights group, and now, as a division of AT&T, we have an incredible wealth of information because of the sheer vast number of direct to consumer relationships that AT&T has. we can rely on these folks to really help us make informed decisions about our sports investment thesis. I think the other thing we do is we have 7 offices around the United States where we have sales offices, and those individuals in those offices go and talk to the marketers in their specific regions and identify where there may be opportunities to partner based on the challenges that marketer may have at any given moment. So if it's trying to reach a specific demographic group, if it's trying to, if that brand, let's say that brand, for example, really has identified the NBA audience as someone that's really in their sweet spot for, target audience, we can help them navigate the process of becoming an official marketing partner of the NBA. And then obviously once they're an official partner of the NBA, they can utilize that IP to make much more NBA centric television commercials, or advertisements, across all media. Think about State Farm as a good example of that. When you see Chris Paul show up in a State Farm ad, and then, All-Star Weekends, All-Star Saturday Night presented by State Farm, you can start to really own that audience and really take over that entire experience in a much more powerful way. We try to help identify, what those opportunities are for our advertising partners, based on the portfolio that we represent, based on the insights that we have from our research and analytics group. And then obviously, having a deep understanding of what that marketer is trying to accomplish. So it's a lot of fun. It's one of the things I always say about this business is it's really, if you're creative in terms of being able to put building blocks together and come up with interesting ideas that can tie in and help a marketer's a brand's marketing challenges, it's a really fun business to be in, because it's very rewarding when you see all this stuff come together and come to life on TV and in an event environment and things like that. So that's really that's our main objective. Those are the types of tools we utilize to help identify where those opportunities lie.
So kind of segmenting a little bit on a more personal note. So one of the things that we do when we interview our guests on Marketside Chats is we ask them a little bit about their career progression, and if they've had any notable mentors or notable lessons that they picked up along the way, since our demographic is largely catered to a younger crowd, mainly high school seniors, college students, and people in their early 20s. So is there any general advice or business advice that you would like to point out in your career progression, because it's obviously shown in your specialization in sports advertising?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've had several great mentors in my career, all of whom I still stay very, very close with.
Yeah.
And, I feel like, there's, while they all share some similarities in their styles and the way they went about their business, there's also a lot of unique things that makes each one unique. And I had a boss a long time ago, say, one thing in your career is you want to replicate the good things that people do, but you also want to make sure you pay attention to the things that don't work and put that into practice. The one thing recently that I think, specific, Jack, to your question about young adults that are coming into their career is we instituted a reverse mentoring program at Warner Media over the last couple of years. And what that means is they assigned, it's a volunteer thing, but they took the senior executives and put them in a mentor relationship with some of our more junior or younger employees. And the idea being that they are our mentors. So I'm learning from, I have a young woman who is now running the HBO Max product from an advertising perspective. She's on the task force to figure out how do we bring advertising to that streaming product. And she was at the time working in our advanced advertising group, which is where we try to leverage data and insights about our consumers and target specific advertising to those people based on their consumer behavior habits.
Mm-hmm.
And she taught me a ton about kind of that next wave of what the future of advertising is going to look like. And while that was a very specific program that we put in place, what I found is that, especially the young people that work in our organization, they have a lot of things to say about how we should be thinking about our business, where we should be investing, the types of products and the types of services that we're offering. So I guess my advice in this is to speak up. And, a lot of times I know for myself, especially in my younger end of my career, you kind of want to just get in, you want to listen to everybody else. But I think that young people have a lot to share, particularly about the future of the media experience, relative to my business. So that would be something that I would recommend is don't be afraid to lean in early on in your career.
Frank, I totally agree. I think that really wraps it up. That's a good place to stop. So I just wanted to reach out and say thank you so much for coming on the show. I think I speak on behalf of all of us by saying, we really appreciate your insight into the reopening of sports. And obviously, your whole career progression has been extremely valuable and interesting to hear about. So thank you again. And, we hope you have a great day.
Well, thanks for having me. I really, I'm very appreciative of Jack initiating it and wish you guys the best of luck. I know that sounds like you're off to a great start with your entrepreneurial vision, and